Yeah.
test it out
Yeah.
and see how it feels.
Yeah. You can leave them on. Doesn't hurt anything.
Okay, so meeting called to order at 3:37.
There you go.
So we'll put down who's present. We're missing.
And Joyce.
We're gonna move to the, approval of minutes. Here, I guess I should go ahead. I'm gonna.
Barbara, you coming to the Arts Commission meeting? Okay, it's at 3:30. Yeah, no, 3:30. How do you think it's like?
So you can ask, give everyone a minute to look over the minutes. And if there aren't any corrections, somebody can make a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, I think that was everybody. Okay, so this is where we would have comments from the public. I don't think, besides George, we don't have any public here. So going forward in the future, I think we'll have possibly officer reports. You guys are not going to have a whole lot to report yet. So that's just kind of a agenda item that we'll move on through. Do we want to stall to discuss the art contest, or just go ahead and get rolling?
Let us stall for a little bit and talk about kind of what's going on with the city and the birthday party and anything.
Oh, you want me to just
Yeah,
Fill
whatever.
fill time?
Yeah. So the
Fill us
goals-
in.
The goals that you have.
Okay.
Kind of what you hope this mission to look like.
Yes, for sure. So, next year, well, not next year, I guess it's this year now. I've been talking about it so long and I'm saying next year, and now here we are in 2023. So this year would be Tenino's sesquicentennial year. So it is 150 years since the town was platted. So Stephen Hodgson and his wife sat down with the railroad and made a plan, and they, in two parts, platted two different, the original plat and then an addition. That was all finalized on July 5th, 1873. And so we're gonna try and have a big old party on July 8th, the following Saturday, and celebrate 150 years. But I think we could also do more besides just having a big party. When the centennial happened, they had events throughout the summer, different things. Anytime they did something, they'd be like, this is because it's our centennial year. Well, we could also really play up the fact that this is the sesquicentennial year. And everyone will learn how to say that word.
Would you consider that the kickoff would be July then, for the rest of the year?
I think anytime. I want this whole year to, we're talking about a proclamation that would make this the whole year, the sesquicentennial year. So that's something we're talking about to bring up
To bring up at council?
at council.
Okay.
So,
And you want me to bring it up?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of been drafting a thing. So I can send it to you. We could work on it together. It would be the first proclamation I was involved in, so you might know more about it than I do, to be
Maybe
honest
I'll
with
do.
you. I'm a newbie when it comes to proclamations, but I just think it would be fun. The first proclamation I ever read was one Ken Hedden did concerning Oregon Trail Days. And he put out a proclamation, and maybe it was just to be funny, but it was all about how all men would grow beards. So,
So what do you want in your proclamation?
What's that?
What would you like in your proclamation?
This proclamation will be a little more serious, so
Okay.
we're going to talk about the history, and so you have to have an argument to back up your proclamation. So we'll talk about the history that backs up that this would be our sesquicentennial year. You know, it's actually changed. So the first centennial celebration that Tenino had was in 1971. And as far as Rich Edwards and I can tell, nothing happened in 1871. So I'm not sure why they chose that year, because it wasn't until 1872 that the railroad came and things really started to happen. Yeah, and then 1873 is when they platted the town. So anyway, long story short.
So basically you're looking
We're
into the
gonna we're
history.
gonna make an argument
Okay.
to say that this is actually
Okay.
the real the real year that a 150th birthday would happen. And that in the future, when they do this again,
They don't have to do that.
their bicentennial should be the year 2073, not, so. Yeah, and that celebration over in the park, I don't want to try and steal anything from Oregon Trail Days. I'd love it to be different, like Americana kind of contests. When I look at all the celebrations that we used to have, there were always contests. Things like, I don't know, races, three-legged races, sack races, eating contests, beard growing contests, costume contests, softball games, horseshoes. Maybe in this era we'd do cornhole. That seems to be a big deal. But just kind of these fun, picnicky kind of activities that we could do. I have a whole list, and I'm just trying to remember them all, but I didn't come prepared to talk about it today. But just reading over, they had bicycle ball, it was like a baseball game, but done with bicycles that they did at one of these celebrations. So it can be silly.
Mm-hmm.
Carnivals, petting zoos, just a little more fun Americana instead of the Oregon Trail theme. A party.
And you said you wanted to do that more than just once in the summer.
Yeah, so the big day would be July 8th, that I'm talking we throw as much at it as we can. I've looked at other people's sesquicentennial celebrations, and they've got skydivers coming in. They really do fireworks shows and all the things I just talked about and more. And so, it is a really big opportunity to get creative. People who have garden tours, what if the FFA did a garden tour? That, just have fun with it.
Okay.
And try some different things. I'm going to let you have this seat, Bob.
Okay.
And now that you're here, I'll stop talking.
Thanks for doing the fill-in, Jessica.
I'm sorry I had down 4 o'clock.
We're happy you're here. We're happy you're here.
Good, thank you, Donna.
So Jessica, were you talking about something on July 8th to do that celebration?
Yes. Sesquicentennial. We might change that name. I mean, that's just what it's called. But it could be the 150th birthday party for Tenino, or say it some other way. The 150th Jubilee.
That sounds like a party.
Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want to share what your goal for the music in the park series or not.
I mean, I can. It's one of those things. I applied for a grant. I don't know if we'll get the grant, because that could just kill the whole thing dead. But I applied for some funds to pay musicians so that throughout the summer we could have music in the park series.
Okay.
And some of that can overlap. We could have some musicians come on the sesquicentennial. We could on Tenino Railroad Day, on Oregon Trail Days, and then some off weekends where there's not a lot going on. We could just have some music in the park.
Mm-hmm.
So that's,
When will you hear about the grant?
What's the timing usually on that? We just turned it in,
Oh.
Yeah.
so.
Was that what ours?
We're supposed to meet on the 30th, I think, at the end of the month.
Okay.
And
That-
then-
Yeah, that's the Thurston County Lodging Tax Grant.
Oh, yeah.
So it's to promote tourism activities.
And then you're also applying for a grant with the port.
Yeah, so we haven't done that one yet, but if we applied for the port grant for tonight, one of the things we talked about maybe applying for, but this is something I think the city council's got to, I'm not sure. One of the things we talked about was, infrastructure to support music in the park, like sound equipment and things. So tonight on Railroad Day, I had to borrow the equipment to do that show. And it was a lot to ask friends to bring all of their equipment here, set it up and run it. So my thought is if we're gonna start doing these kinds of things regularly, we need to have our own kit and our own ability to run it. So that's.
What does that run?
Huh?
Money-wise, what is that?
Oh, it can be a lot, so we would work within the budget
Okay.
of the port grant.
Whatever came in, right?
Yeah, I mean,
What do you mean a kit?
I just mean all the gear you need: speakers, soundboard,
Microphones.
microphones. I don't know. There's a lot, and I'm not. I would be consulting with. First of all, I'm asking the advice of the fellow who came and set up Tonight on Railroad Day, because he did an excellent job and everyone could hear the music and everything. So I'm consulting with him so that when I go to actual people who sell this stuff, that I know, about how to kick the tires and stuff.
Well, you
You
know,
don't oversell.
the chamber has a sound system that anybody that's a chamber member in the museum is a member can utilize.
It's
Yeah.
just not sophisticated enough.
It's not enough.
I think,
Not for that.
no, we need like 6 to 10 microphones and surround sound and this.
Wow.
I feel like,
I think you better get that so we can all use it.
yeah, I feel like the chamber's probably gonna have a PA system, which isn't really the same, a simple PA for parades and things, which is great to have, but I don't think it's sufficient for.
Not for
all of
music,
sound. Yeah.
right?
And then Railroad Day is scheduled for the 16th,
What's that?
September 16th, is that?
That sounds about right. It'll be the third Saturday in September.
Which day, George?
Pardon?
Which day did you say?
September 16th.
The 16th.
For-
September, for Tonight on Railroad Day.
Okay,
We're
yeah.
gonna do it again. It was
It was good.
it was good. And it's something we can build on.
And you'll be there this year.
Yeah.
And then Railroad Day is gonna be July 21st, 22nd, 23rd. And then the Tenano Arts Market is March 22nd through the 24th.
Mhm.
And
Nope,
then
24th through 26th.
Pardon?
March 24th through 26th.
No, 24th through 26th.
Mhm.
And then Holiday Market will be Thanksgiving week in here. So those are kind of putting a calendar together of kind of what's taking place with arts, culture, recreation, history. that kind of stuff.
The summer show is scheduled for, get to the right month, Bob, July 20th to the 29th. Hunchback of Notre Dame.
July 20th
That should be a big deal.
through 29th, you say?
Mm-hmm. And yes, it is.
How many actors?
About 30.
Wow.
30?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That is huge thing.
Mm-hmm.
And will it be at the school?
Yes.
Okay.
That's not confirmed yet, but it will be soon.
Okay, so if you want, you can go ahead and
Okay,
get down to business
okay,
on
we'll,
the art contest.
all right, let's discuss the new business, the art contest. We're gonna go over the process, rules, and these are for, I believe, the metal banners,
The metal banner.
metal banners.
So the project is 23 light poles there.
Donna,
Mhm.
I can hardly hear you down here.
I'm sorry.
Can you speak into your microphone?
Okey dokey.
There you go.
All right,
Thank
So 23 light poles, so 23 pieces of art will be required. And George has handed us some great pieces on how other communities have put together for submissions, lots of great ideas and rules. And so we will need to go through and figure out what it is exactly we want to do for that process as well. Is everyone familiar with the project?
Mhm.
They
Okay.
all got a handout last month with
Okay.
the pictures of it and things like
Okay.
that, so. Jessica, do you know that once the Arts Commission makes a recommendation for the contest, does that need to go to the city council then for approval?
Yeah, I would think so, because you just make a recommendation, and then I'm sure the council would say yeah.
Depends on who puts them up.
Oh, yeah.
Pardon?
If they want maintenance to put them up, then it would have to go.
Yeah, well, this is a city-sponsored project that I got a grant for. So we got a grant from the Washington State Arts Commission that went to the city of Tenino, so that's what we applied for, et cetera. And then Stu is the artist that will create them, but then we have to install them, so.
And before that happens, we have to solicit art from our community. So we'll have to, is this the point where we discuss what the rules should be?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Right. My main thinking is that as we're talking about the art to potential artists, and of course it's open, I think it's going to be open to Washington State people, or are we limiting that to our community? That has to be decided. But we should, I believe we need to make sure that we are telling our future artisans that it's a conceptual that we're asking for, so that they do understand that as what they turn in may be modified to work with the process that we're talking about. And we, of course, like in these other competitions, need to stress that it is no longer their property once it's established as one of the winning pieces.
And we're not gonna provide any numeration money for their art, because we don't have a budget for that,
Right.
so.
So
But
the
they will be-
prize would be seeing your art up
Yeah.
in the city. And I believe Stu's medal lasts for a very long time, so it would be, our judges will have to be very careful to make sure that they're choosing something that is timeless. And our artists that win the submissions will be able to get to see their things up in the public for quite some time, so.
Rob, you did a little exploring about possibility working with the school to get some art from them, or,
I did mostly thinking.
okay,
I did contact the middle school, but without having really specific details yet. It was more of a, hey, heads up, this is on the horizon.
no way, cool.
And so I contacted both the art teacher and the principal. So I didn't expect a reply, haven't had one,
Sure.
because I just said, hey, more to come.
My suggestion would be that when we are ready, we have an online process with a template for artists to use for submission, because this is a positive and a negative kind of situation. There's either medal or there's not. Each piece of the art has to connect to the framework on the outside. So it's a little different than what most people are thinking of when it comes to artwork in the setup. So it could be, our template could be one that could be easily explained as far as the proportions go, because that's definitely limited. That it has to be a black and white concept, in that we're not going to be necessarily throwing a lot of color onto it, although Stu's got that ability, but it'll be in a subtle way. So it really has to be a very specialized art form in a sense, but it's also very simple. And so students definitely could participate in this. It'd be really, really cool to have them part of it too. And did we initially say that we wanted to have Tenino on the bottom or somewhere on the piece as well? Had we
We-
talked about that?
We talked about that, but we didn't
Okay,
finalize
so
it,
that's
but-
something we would have to decide as well, if there'll always be that same kind of marker on the bottom or the side or somewhere that will consistently say Tenino or whatever else we want to say on it. I personally think that's a great idea because it just reinforces where we are and who's submitting. So let's first discuss who we can pull from. Are we opening it up to anyone in the state? Are we opening it up to Thurston County residents? Where do we want to put the limit?
There, okay. I would hope that most of it would be from at least Thurston County. But if we need to make it larger than that, we need to make it larger than that. I just don't have a sense of, you know, how many people would jump into this kind of thing. And maybe statewide is probably more real.
I think we would pull in more submissions, yes, and
Yeah.
have a bigger pool to choose from
Yeah.
as far as our submissions go. Any objections to being statewide?
I was just wondering too, might there be former Tenino residents that, grew up
Oh,
here and
yeah.
are living elsewhere around?
Okay,
I don't know. Maybe that's an inclusion we can make if,
That's a good point.
they have some sort of tie
okay,
to the town.
okay. I like it. We,
That even makes it larger,
Yeah.
but that there's a historical connection with the person and the community.
okay,
'Cause if there are 23 polls that we have to worry about, that's potentially 23 people we could bring in. I mean, I don't know how many artists there are in the town necessarily that would want to do something like this, so.
Will there be any designation on the poll of who did the art, who submitted the art?
Not on the poll, but the goal would be we would share that, and one of the, I'd like to do a scavenger hunt. Once we have them up and stuff, the people can come, so they could be recognized on that as well. And then any photographs that we take of it and put on to the website and social media and those kind of things, but their name would not be on the poll. I mean, one possibility would be a little brass plaque somewhere on the poll that people could read about who the art person is,
That's what I was wondering.
just not in the artwork.
No, on the poll, as to who did the art, or who's,
Yeah, it could be kind of like some of the other plaques downtown of the historic district, but smaller.
yeah.
There's one like at the Landmark that big or something, about that building size.
we would just have to factor that expense in.
Pardon?
Factor that expense in
Yeah.
and how to place it. So, but yeah, that could be.
Another way would be to do it virtually, like,
Mhm.
we have a quilt, a centennial quilt, a bicentennial quilt at Washington State Centennial Quilt in the museum, and we have a book, and we go through the book, and it has what the quilt squares represent, because it's not always obvious if you don't know the history,
Mhm.
and then who did it, who designed it. So you could do something like that virtually on the city's webpage, or and have each artwork piece, and then who did it and what it's called or what the story
Mhm.
behind it is.
Mhm.
And that would be free, basically.
I
Right.
was gonna say, that's expensive.
And you're right, somebody could give a little 3 or 4 sentence reason for the art they chose and tie it into their artistic endeavor there. So I like that.
And we could maybe have a plaque somewhere that talks about where to find out more or something.
Yeah. What just came to my mind right now, though, is we could also have possibly a QR code for those who do that, and it could pull up and talk about the city of Tenino, the art project, and who the artist is. So, possibly.
Assuming we get more than 23 entrants, I would hope that, particularly for locals, Those that are not chosen, we could still put on the city website or
Oh, yeah.
somewhere similar. I don't know if we want to take pictures of their picture and, or print what they sent and post them someplace at the park or the museum. Just could be a temporary display. Especially when you're talking about kids, students. If they're not selected, then it would still be nice to be able to say, hey, go here and you'll see yours.
Yeah, we did a Arttober in Tenino contest a year ago, I think.
A year and a half, yeah.
Not October this year, but the year before. We had 170 some entries, and then we did post those on Facebook, and then we also put them in the Sandstone Cafe window and the Tenino Independent window for probably 2 to 4 weeks. So I like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think the public posting of what's offered is a great idea. I don't think we'll have a problem getting 23 entrants. Those who are artistic are going to have more than one idea, and I submit that we don't limit, that we aren't limiting an artist just to one submission, but one of these community things said they limited it to 10 submissions per person, and I think that would be just fine. So I think the more submissions, the better, quite honestly. So I'd love for us to have a lot to choose from.
Yeah, there's more for us to look at and say, this fits, this is what we want. you know.
Right, right.
The only issue I might get into personally, as being the one who would probably end up putting them on a webpage, would be if we had 2,000 submissions and I had to catalog them all and put them online.
And I
Unless we
think,
had a volunteer to do that.
and I think we can play that one by ear. If too many come in, we'll have to find a way to do that and make it simple and doable. But that would be a great problem, actually.
Is there a date by which this project needs to be completed?
June 30th. Installed June 30th.
Installed by June 30th. Oh my gosh.
So timing is of
Yes,
essence.
yes.
Do all 23 need to be installed by the 30th?
Pardon?
Do all 23 need to be installed by the 30th, or can we do some of them?
No, they have to be paid for and installed for the grant.
And
Okay.
do we know how much time the artist needs to complete 23 banners?
He said he'd probably do it in a month and a half, but after today's meeting, then I'll meet with him again and say, this is what the scoop is. And
So we'd be safe at this point to assume 6 weeks.
yes.
Well, so we could back our timelines up from there to get something approximate today.
Yep.
Or we could choose half of them and he could start working on them.
Stu's process, it will take a while to, especially if we're getting art that's not quite ready to go. So we will need to give him a good chunk of time, and whoever is going to be converting the artwork. Stu and I talked about, both of us doing that together. He requires vector artwork, and that's a special program that both he and I do have. And that's why I keep going back to the kind of a template, because that does make it a whole lot easier if it's submitted that way. So we probably need to get as much input from Stu as humanly possible.
So Donna, is the process, I'm the artist and I've drawn my design and I turn it in, and then you and Stu have to make sure that it works within, so it doesn't blow out, things like that.
Yes.
And so there would possibly be some adjusting of the art in order to make that work.
Yes.
And that's what is going to take the time.
That will be part of what takes time. Yes, he's going to have to key it into his computer that will do the cutting of the metal.
Right.
So we've got to make sure it's got certain points on it that will hit and cut out metal, and certain points that won't cut out metal and make it too thin. So that's why
And
we
like
need.
those points would be on the,
And-
the template?
Initially, it would be on the artwork. Hopefully, the artwork was close to what it needed to be. It would be scanned, and then the vector program, we would go through and clean it up so that it would be workable in what he
Okay.
needs. The more details we get from Stu up front on how the art needs to be submitted, the less work we'll have to do once it gets turned in and accepted. There are a lot of artists that go into super detail. This is not a process that allows for a lot of super detail. You're cutting things out of metal. It's going to be seen at the top of, or partially down a light pole. So it's got to be bold, and it's got to be fairly simple, yet it's got to represent the intent of the artist. So there's things that need to happen. And it's not the typical submission, like these are done in color and photographs and collage and things like that. And so there's a multitude of kinds of art. We're talking basically a simple line art, and it has to represent something and be understandable. Does that make
So
sense?
simple is not necessarily simple either.
Exactly.
Okay. So I'm just trying to back it up in my mind. What day in June did you say, George?
June 30th.
June 30th. So middle of May at the latest.
For acceptable, ready to go artwork, yes.
So then we need a couple of weeks actually to do some judging,
Right,
right?
right.
So we're talking beginning of May. That's the end of when people can submit.
Right. So if we can get on this right away, we actually do have time
Yeah.
for artists to go ahead and pull things together. So we need from Stu some very specifics. I think you and he had talked about maybe like square format. Later on, he and I spoke that a vertical format, like a banner, is actually a better thing to hang from a light pole. So we would need to find
Yeah.
out that. And he said the cost would be the same. So we can, as
Something
soon as
like
we have a
2
size.
2 feet by 2.5 by, I think it's 3 or 4, something like that. Like that tall and then this wide.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Mhm. Right, so we just need the specifics. Also the specifics were how much border he needed of metal, kind of basically a framework, so artists wouldn't cut into that area, and basically how much room, how narrow some piece of artwork, some of the metal had to be, so that it would hold together in the weather and all that other good stuff. So it's the parameters. And those we definitely need from Stu.
Yeah. Maybe you and I can meet with Stu afterwards, so.
Be great, be super. So,
So do we need a committee just to help write this thing up? I mean, these are other community stuff, not ours.
right.
So I'm asking that question.
Right, we do. We need to come up with our basically our contest parameters.
Mhm.
So we talked about the limiting to entrance. We're saying Washington State people plus anyone with
Connections. to the
ties
city.
to connect to Tenino. Is that correct? Does that work for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe include in there, maybe include in there, if you're not in Washington, tell us how you are tied to.
Okay, I like that. And how do we want to put, once we've got this ready, how do we want to put this out for the public?
For the what?
How do we put this out for the public, the ability
Yeah.
to submit?
So once you have the decision, what you want to do, et cetera, we will do the city's website, we'll do social media plus, we'll do a media release and send all the media release. So
Okay.
newspaper, Thurston
Okay.
Talk, the radio stations, to put the word out that way as well. So,
All right, super.
do you have
Mhm.
other ideas?
Tenino Arts and TYT and school websites, those would be places to
Our-
do it as well.
Our local peeps.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Joyce, could you push your button?
I better not
No.
on that.
You don't want that one.
I'll tell you later, George.
Okay. Sorry, you know I can't hear, so.
Well, it's the website that's got, what, almost close to 1,000, or the Facebook page that has almost 1,000 people on it already in two or 3 days.
Wow.
1,500 now?
1,500 as of today,
Golly, that's amazing.
but we digress.
Yes.
Oh, now I know what you're saying.
So on the Skagit impressions, it has a purpose statement, which says to add vibrancy and color to the city's streetscape for promoting the diverse culture of Mount Vernon and Skagit County. It would be great if we had a purpose statement for ours. We're not adding vibrancy and color. So what's our point? Why do we want these?
Well, when I came up with the concept and applied for the grant, it was to put something on our streetscapes that was interesting and people wanted to come, but also to share kind of what the history, attractions, et cetera, of the Tenino area is.
Okay.
So it makes us stand out from any other, you know, some cities you go to, they have banners and they got tulips on them, right? Or whatever, that's generic, could be in any place in America. And so the goal was, these things are gonna make us stand out from, these are Tenino-based type things to be proud of and that kind of stuff, so.
So to provide imagery that ties to the Tenino community?
Yeah, the
Okay.
history and stuff. I mean, the things I thought about, the sign out front, out of the word Tenino could have been one. The Depot Museum could have been one with the train and the depot. Maybe even the wooden money that we got. You know, what's Tenino-based things? The Quarry Pool with the diver, you know, those kind of types of things was kind of my concept of in doing this. So I'm not sure I have 23 of them, but
We might have that many squares on our quilts.
Yeah.
The museum, it's doable.
Well, and also like you said, what's going on now in our community, not just history in the
Yeah.
past. And maybe there's even some dreams about Tenino that can be a part.
somewhat.
Some dreams
Dreams?
about Tenino.
Yeah. But, you know, because we celebrate Oregon Trail Days, maybe it's a schooner. You know,
Uh-huh, yeah.
you know, what really ties back to us. So, or like, you know, we have the statue that Ariza Meeker put down there from 19 whatever. That's the square statue. I don't know if you've all seen it, but it's down, how far is that? But it's on the left-hand side, and it's a marker that he put there 100 years ago, recognizing the Oregon Trail.
Right.
Currently, we have muzzle loaders at Oregon Trail Days, and I thought maybe we would see a muzzle loader there. I'm not sure they're gonna come back now, so. But that
But
could
that's
have been,
part of our history for a long time was the muzzle.
yeah, so that could have
Shears.
been one of them, so.
Right.
I mean, there could be sports-related ones, there could be, the natural beauty of Tenino, we are the evergreen state, and yes, that can be anywhere, but it's here too. So anything that showcases the unique culture of Tenino.
Definitely needs to have a beaver in it somewhere.
Yeah.
One of them.
There should be. And you could do all the mascots if you really.
So what if it said to provide imagery that represents the history, culture, and natural beauty of Tenino? Does that work?
You're good, Donna.
Okay, one thing done. Woo-hoo. Okay. We will need to establish who will be deciding these, jurying these pieces once they're in. So that will have to be, we'll have to choose a group to do that. For Tenino Arts, we do a scoring system that the regular festivals and marketplaces use throughout Washington. And we could definitely set up a scoring system. So each judge would have their own say. So does that sound acceptable?
Yep.
Okay.
In fact, I think it's necessary.
And how many?
Thinking the judges won't be you guys.
They will not be us, guys. So we will need to select a group, and for Tenino Arts, we always use 5. Just you're getting a good diversity of people that way. So we'll need to figure out if 5 is a good number for us, and find 5 people from at least this area. And I don't know that it has to be Tenino, but it probably would be helpful to choose.
If they're gonna choose what represents Tenino, I feel like they should be
Okay.
from Tenino, or at least very knowledgeable
Okay.
about Tenino. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense to have somebody from Olympia to choose the things that represent our culture and history.
Okay.
It's just my personal feeling on it.
And I actually felt that you guys should be weighing in on it.
Yeah,
You know,
I do too.
See, I was
Somehow.
gonna ask, why are we not involved in that? Are you talking about the choosing of the, of the things? Why are we not involved in it?
Typically, you keep your judges anonymous, so there's no, hey, you didn't pick my stuff, kind of a thing. So
Well, they don't have to know who the judges are, do they? They
Can
don't
we-
have to know it's us.
they,
We, because it's a city-funded project, may need to, people may need to be who, that whole process. So
okay,
we'll clarify that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
okay.
We do try and be transparent.
I was gonna say,
Okay,
they have to have
the-
the transparency for
Yeah.
the city.
Being a city project,
Yeah.
And the other part is that since we're administering it, what we could do as a group is go through the submissions and, select the ones that we know would represent Tenino well, and basically edit out the ones that we know would not. So we could be the preliminary committee of choosing what would be acceptable, and then hand it over to,
Narrow it down to like 100 submissions that are
Exactly.
the best ones as far as
Mhm.
that, and then whoever you hand it off to, you at least feel good.
then it's scored, yeah, basically. So we know that what would come back out of it are acceptable to us.
Donna, do judges need to be artists?
No, matter of fact, they probably shouldn't all be artists.
Okay, that was,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, this is for the general public, so we want the general public's opinion
Good,
on how
good,
things
yeah.
go,
Because
so.
I'm thinking those artists are gonna, whoever would be artists, hopefully would be,
Well, and if
putting
someone
it in.
submits, they don't get to be,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
so, that gets sad, because I wanted to submit, so, anyway, yeah, so do we
You
all
could
agree that?
You could recuse yourself, just so you know.
Okay. Do we all agree that we will try and find 5 Tenino people to be our final judges after the preliminary?
Yeah.
I believe we should.
Okay,
and then the city council will have to approve the final decision,
right.
just FYI.
I would like to suggest we add to that with a little diversity on that group. I'm thinking age diversity. I think it'd be pretty cool to have maybe a representative from the high school, one of the students, be a part of that. Be nice to have somebody with younger eyes and thoughts on what the town is like to be able to.
In the future,
Yeah, to be able to put in their opinion on the judging.
I like it,
I agree.
I agree.
You have the thing, Jessica, anything else, Jessica? I mean, at some point, we will have to take the legalese part through the city's attorney for approval.
I didn't get a copy of all the contest rules that they're looking at, so.
I brought you a copy.
But if they feel like we've covered all of the things,
The main points.
things. Yeah.
I mean, other things I think could come out of this is that T-shirts could be made with each one. I mean, merchandising type stuff to help
Yeah.
support the creative district.
I like it.
Yeah.
It'd be great.
So that was the thing that would need to be in there, is to let everyone know that they're, relinquishing their rights to the.
It's in here.
Yeah, it's
It's
definitely
very,
in there.
very clear on these two. These are the best two examples. I found like 20 examples.
They're pretty
But
thorough.
these are the best two I found that really went into detail. I found one that was like a one pager, and I was like, no, that's not enough to outline.
So after you and I and Stu talk about the specifications, let's get it out to this group. Can we email everybody and let you know? Because it looks like we're going to want to jump on this fairly soon. So everybody okay with us sending email information on the specifications?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Skagit did theirs. They opened it up for submissions for 3 weeks.
We'll
That's pretty darn quick.
that will need longer. We will definitely need longer. So,
If you do it too long, I think people forget and lose momentum on something. But sometimes it's nice to have a little bit of a sense of urgency.
but this being a distinctly unusual art form, I would say a minimum of 4 weeks for submissions.
4 weeks sounds reasonable.
Okay.
I'm just
Okay.
like, if you gave people 2 months.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It goes on a
so-
to-do list.
So artists are procrastinators and we forget.
Mm-hmm. This one is. So, in terms of opening it up, we need to open it up by the middle of February.
Yep. That's actually, from an artist standpoint, that's actually a really good time of year to be opening it up. Most of the outdoor markets and festivals are just taking the applications, and it's not typically a busy art time of year, so this is a great time to be asking for people to use their creativity. So,
Maybe if you guys could just skim both those and see if there's anything else that stands out to you that is like, yeah, no.
Just doing a little calendar math. If we need to get the artwork to the artist by April 30th, end of April, 1st of May, and we give 2 weeks for judging, is that enough time?
we don't need 2 weeks.
So if we give them 2 weeks just to pad the calendar,
Okay.
that would mean submissions would have to be turned in by April 15th. And if you're talking 4 weeks
That's March, yeah.
to accept those submissions, that's March 15th.
We could even bump it up. There's no reason why we couldn't give Stu more time.
Yes.
True. Yeah.
So,
And I
I
think.
just am
I-
wondering if,
Even that 2 week padding could be like, I mean, if the group makes up their mind
Mhm.
and they only need a couple days, then that's extra time than he can have to
You
create
have
the
2
banner.
groups.
You have-
Yeah, true, yeah.
You've got this group and then the second group.
Yeah.
And then you also have to think about when can people get together.
Mhm.
Right, it might take a week.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
like,
actually.
I know we can get together this week, we have to do it next week.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, I could use yourselves more time for judging.
I agree.
I was
And-
just wondering if trying to get this ready, what did we say, February, did we say early or mid-February?
Mid-February?
That might be a little aggressive is what I was thinking.
I think that, isn't that when we're asking for submissions, or is that when we were asking for them to be turned in?
Oh, no, submissions, or to get
Opening
ready
it
to
up.
submit.
Opening it up.
Is
Get ready
getting
to
it
get the
Yeah, let's
information
get it,
out to
getting it out
them.
in
Right.
mid-February.
Yeah,
And then giving them a month
Mhm.
at least.
The judging, the 5 judges, they would not be judging together. So the calendar does not have to be, we need to meet at certain time. It just has to have the artwork available for them to come in, do their scoring, and then they're gone. So it makes it really
Right.
easy as far
Yeah.
as that goes.
How you all would do it?
That we would have to decide if we want to be, we should probably be together, but we all live in the area and could probably arrange to have it at maybe one of our meetings. Or just quickly, even if we just did half of our group at a time and assembled, but it will take some space, so that will be the criteria, is being able to sort of truly look at these items and decide what doesn't fit. And we actually have got kind of the easier job because we're just eliminating. So
So how do we expect them to submit these?
and that's what George and Stu and I will talk about, how best to submit, either online or as a physical line drawing.
So we may have the ability to not necessarily have to be together,
It's true,
you know, so.
it's true.
um,
There will be some people who do it physically, so,
I think you should have the option in case somebody isn't tech savvy.
exactly,
Mhm.
yes, yeah.
Otherwise, you're not making it very accessible.
Well, and especially for the younger kids who may have some really cool idea, you know, so to be able to, just basically cut up paper and put it together would be actually an acceptable version. So it
Yeah.
just needs to be black and white. So,
If we know somebody that's good with art, could we submit their name as a judge? If they're not submitting,
yeah,
What was the question, Elaine?
if we have somebody that we know that's good with art and studies it, could we nominate them to be a judge if they're not submitting
If they're not submitting.
artwork?
yeah, I think that's great. So were there any other items you saw running through here that we needed to cover?
Just like the sample layouts here, and also definitely, like you kind of mentioned, that there needs to be some space around the side. So I think just kind of like showing artists, like, this is the space, and here's where you need to leave some space so that it's structurally sound and not going to fall off of our light poles, you know?
Well, and in Olympia, near the Capitol, they've got these metal banners hanging, and between Stu's artwork and what we can get pictures of that, it should be pretty easy to allow our future artisans to go ahead and look at that and get an idea of how it's going to work. So, but yeah, the visuals are important.
And just to clarify, submissions can be in any medium then? Can be pictures, can be crayon art, can
No,
be,
it has to be line art.
has to be line art. Can you explain that for the uneducated in?
Line art is either black or it's white. So you have simple lines,
So it has to be drawn.
or you can do it on the computer, yes. You could even take black paper and cut out part of what you don't want to be there. So you have to think in terms of black and white. No color, no shading, just it's either there or it's not. So,
I don't know how that fits.
Because the metal's being cut out. So
Yeah,
so
I understand
it's-
that. I
yeah.
just assumed that the artist was going to take like a photograph and then do his artist thing and change that to line art. So
no,
that,
it needs to be.
that, I don't know what that does to like student submissions. I don't know if Parkside kids
Mhm.
are going to be able to submit line art.
Actually, I think Parkside kids will have less trouble than the
Yeah.
other students will. It's
Okay.
either a heart shape or it's not. It's not a colored with shading. It's not a photograph. It's just a graphic. And so it's either black or it's white. And it actually becomes very, very simple. And I think the kids might actually do really, really well in this competition.
Okay.
So does that make sense?
Mostly. I mean, that totally opens the door for my stick figure art.
It
because that's
does.
the only thing I can do.
Well, actually, you could do stick figures.
Mhm.
I mean, you seriously could.
Yeah, yeah. And
You know, make it funky fun.
I think in some ways this is so much fun because it really does take it down to the basics. It's your basic concept and your basic black and white as far as your submission goes, you know. So it's basically an icon and a symbol that people use.
I think any kid who's ever done shadow puppets, like the shadow like cutouts that they would put the lamp behind and shine on the wall, would understand the concept of
Right.
this is the shadow.
It just has to be able to tie to something. Nothing can float.
Yeah.
So that's the one criteria piece that kids may have a little trouble with, but it's a good challenge. So. Anything else?
I just have to put in my 2 cents that I have heartburn with not being able to judge. And I understand. But George is grinning because he knows me.
We get the preliminary part.
Okay. I
We're
can say
preliminary
that-
judges.
That's really crappy, and I like this one.
We get to do the thumbs down. Sorry. So, anything else we need to work on this?
So next up is Donna and I'll meet with Stu, and then we'll also work with Jessica on finalizing what the full contest would look like.
Okay.
And then we'll probably send that out to you first in email to review, et cetera. You guys are supposed to meet at least twice a year, and meetings can be called anytime, versus like the planning commission is always the whatever Wednesday. So I would like to suggest we meet in 2 weeks for a brief meeting just for this. Because time is of the essence. I mean, it took me a year to get you guys finally in a room.
We don't have that kind of time.
Yeah.
So what would that be 2 weeks from today?
The 31st.
Third. What is today?
17th?
Today is the
31st,
17th.
yeah.
Yeah.
It says right there on my phone.
It's okay, I didn't think it was the 17th.
Acceptable is 3:30, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Is that
3:30 is better.
Tuesday?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, that is a Tuesday.
Is that okay? What's the matter? What?
Oh, I'm just grumbling because it's my day off, and then I have to drive here.
Oh.
But that's okay. I'll do it.
I mean, I can do a different day if y'all can.
Joyce, wine will be rewarded after.
That's good.
Turn my speaker off.
George knows I'm fine.
Okay.
I do have a conflict that day.
We need you.
Yeah.
How about the day before, on the 30th?
Monday.
That would be fine. Wednesday would be fine. Pretty much any other day that week would be fine for me, except Friday.
Okay, how about you guys? You have
I'm-
any conflicts?
I'm open on any of those, so
No golf dates?
not yet. No.
Linda's going to be busy anyway
Yeah,
during the week
yeah,
until session is over.
yeah.
So I'm free.
Okay.
Yay, thank you.
So are we looking at Monday at 3:30 right now? Or Wednesday at 3:30?
I prefer the 30th.
You prefer the 30th? Okay.
Me too.
Okay.
Is that a Monday?
Yes.
That's
Yep.
a Monday. Is that better for you, Joyce? Or is that still your day off? I care about your schedule.
No, that's okay. I would rather come Tuesdays. It's Monday, but I will come Monday because I love you all.
Thank you, Joyce. Monday.
George might have to call and remind me again, though.
And Jessica, thank you again for reminding all of us today.
Oh, my gosh. On my day off, I'm off. So that's why I have a problem. It's like forget everything.
I'm the same way.
If I'm at work, I remember better.
So if there's nothing else, well,
Yeah, you might go ahead and ask if there's anybody who has any announcements.
does anyone have any announcements?
Go on your Facebook page. Call your congressman, your representative, and your senators. I'm serious, that call line and have them send a message to your representative and senators about the house that's going in.
1-800-562-6000.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Because that's the only way it's gonna get changed. It's a law.
You know what she's talking about.
I was a little slow on the update, but I figured it out.
So then all we would need from you all is a motion to adjourn.
Can I do that?
I don't know, as chair, I usually ask for a motion.
I ask
Yeah.
a
You
motion.
don't have to, you just say.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned.
We didn't vote on it, just.
In fact, I don't even think you need a second on the motion to adjourn. You just,
Really? People just run out the door?
yeah. And I was doing some research on seconding, and it's actually very rarely called for in small group settings like this.
But we like it.
John Allen says non-negotiable.
Yeah, it's just that whenever it's like just a point of order, it's not really something you have to.
But it's good to have people chime in.
I want everybody to know I'm going to the Eagles tonight and I'm gonna win the Queen of Hearts and it's over